Yo, yo, welcome to Trippy Commentaries and our 2014 Fantasy Football Rankings. Today we are breaking down one of the most crucial positions on your team, your running backs. This is home to pretty much the most baller and most Titan-like players you can find. Adrian Peterson looks like he should go on American Gladiators. Jammal Charles seemingly can do it all. We'll tell you which ones you should go for, which ones to avoid as we count down number 1 all the way to number 25. I'm RJ, joined by Justin.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for joining us.
And Kyle.
What's going on, everybody?
Let's go ahead and get into it, guys. My number 1 personally was Adrian Peterson, but in our official Trippy Commentaries rankings, this is a compiled list between the three of us, also Mike. Jammal Charles comes out at number 1. Kyle, I know you personally have JC over Adrian Peterson. What's your reasons for putting him at your top spot?
I just like that he's that versatile running back. He can catch passes out of the backfield, screen passes, get a lot of yards receiving. He had almost 700 yards receiving last year. Plus, he's ridiculous at running the ball, as we already know. Almost 1,300 yards rushing. He was the beast, the fantasy beast last year. Whoever had him, he definitely carried them through a lot of weeks last year. He was very consistent, and nothing has really changed in Kansas City with their play calling. You still got the Andy Reid offense. We saw how LeSean McCoy thrived in that offense. We're going to see the same thing with Charles again this year. He's definitely my number 1, and I can't really pick anybody else over him, probably in this whole draft.
Justin, I know me and you were talking off camera, and you actually were saying that you think Adrian Peterson can have one of the best seasons of his career. We're looking at him right now donning the Pro Bowl outfit, something he probably will be wearing once again if he stays healthy. This is a guy who broke 2,000 yards. What do you think?
Well, you saw what he could do coming off of injury. He had a monster year, so you really can't expect anything else but that. He is the featured guy in that offense now that Norv Turner is out of there. Actually, wait, no, they hired Norv Turner, correct? Yeah, so Norv Turner's in there. Sorry about that. I'm getting confused.
Hey, that's a good thing.
It seems like he switches teams every other year. But,
I'm with you there.
So obviously he'll be the feature back in Minnesota. Their quarterback situation is iffy, and Peterson's really not used in the receiving game. So I could see why he is number 2 behind Charles. Charles is, a key piece in the Chiefs' passing weaponry.
Yeah, of course. Kyle and Mike had Jammal Charles at number 1. Justin and myself put Adrian Peterson at number 1. Just so you guys know where I'm coming from, I just feel like he's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of player, and I'm never going to doubt him. I think he's going to have a great season. I'm high on the Minnesota Vikings offense. LeSean McCoy comes in at number 3. This was a guy I was looking at possibly put at number 1.
Shady.
He ends up at number 3. Kyle, I can imagine you would love to have him on your squad this season.
I actually had McCoy as number 2 on my list over Peterson. You guys touched on my gripe with Peterson is he's not used enough in the passing game. I'm huge on fantasy running backs that get receiving yards as well. McCoy's probably the prototypical receiving type running back. Probably one of the most scary running backs in the league. When that guy gets in the open field, he makes people look stupid. He's going to break a few ankles this year like he's done in the past. And, if I can't get Charles number 1, I'm going McCoy number 2.
Now, our number 4 guy, Marshawn Lynch. Justin, do you, you got to trust the guy. He's been used so much. He just got paid, so he should be, coming out with a good frame of mind. Would you take him pretty high?
Yeah, money will always do that. I think he just needed more money to fund his autobiographical movie that he's producing about himself. Yeah, can't wait for that. So now that he's paid, hopefully he's content, and now that he's back in camp, hopefully he's practicing with the team, going over the playbook, trying to get back in shape, because who knows what kind of offseason that guy had after winning the Super Bowl. But, what other running back do they really have that could supplant him? He is a playmaker, and he will get tons of red zone opportunities.
No doubt. Matt Forte, I know you used him to great effectiveness last season, Kyle. What are you looking at from him this year?
Pretty much the same that we saw last year. They're going to use him in the passing game as well as the running game. He's one of the hardest runners. For being all these running backs we've named so far, he's kind of one of the smaller running backs out of all of them. But when you watch him play, it doesn't seem that way because how hard he runs. Definitely like Matt Forte. If he can stay healthy, man, he's definitely a top back. Like, he finished third last year in fantasy points, and look for him to do the exact same this year.
The only question mark I have with our number 6 guy, Eddie Lacy, is health. He's one of those guys where I feel like if he's in there, he's going to be extremely productive. He proved last season that he doesn't need Aaron Rodgers to be an elite running back. Even when Rodgers was out, Lacy was a stud fantasy running back.
Yep.
I love him this season. And, you can question him about injuries, which he's had in both his collegiate career and his rookie season there to start off with. But every single one of these guys you can mention that about. All three of the big the big three there, Charles, Peterson, and McCoy, all had terrible injuries. So who cares, man? I trust Eddie Lacy. I definitely give him a full recommendation. He's in a big-time productive offense there in Green Bay. He's going to have a monster season.
Yeah.
Doug Martin, Justin, someone near and dear to you, number 7. Would you take him that high?
Number 7 overall in a draft, I would take Doug Martin. He's, I think, our collective boy. The muscle hamster, Dougie Fresh, as we like to call him. That kind of a freak shoulder injury last season. I think that was a little bit of a fluke. Barring injury, he's going to have a monster year. With this new offense with Josh McCown, with Jeff Tedford leading the way, it's going to be high action. He's going to be getting maybe even more screen passes than he was before.
Hey, they are the guys, not necessarily Tedford, but of course Lovie Smith was the guy who busted out Matt Forte and made him a star. You could see Doug Martin doing a lot of those similar things here in the training camp leading up to preseason. We've heard a lot of news about running back catches and just emphasis on the running game. Doug Martin will be a star if he can stay healthy after that huge injury last year. Zach Stacy at number 8. This guy is a sure thing starter for a team that is definitely improving. We'll see how Sam Bradford can do this season.
But where would you draft him? Where would you take Stacy? I could not take Stacy in the first round. If you look at the schedule he has to play, he's got to play top 10 defenses 6 times a year. Point. So that's something to be wary of.
He's someone I'm looking for on the wraparound. I kind of agree with you. I can't imagine taking him top 10 despite the fact that he, is ranked number 8 for us. So you'd think that would be a definite top 10 kind of guy. I would probably go with a Calvin Johnson over him and try to look for him on the wraparound because you got 2 guys coming up that I think are absolute studs here. Monty Ball and Le'Veon Bell. Monty Ball is questionable here. He had a lot of fumbles, of course, in his rookie season. Kyle, what are you predicting for him this year?
Yeah, but that's rookie season. Not all running backs come into the league and automatically take off. It does take some of these running backs a year or two to get really, to get comfortable in the NFL and learning how to run. Now, there's no excuses for fumbling, and the one thing that Ball needs to pick up on is his blocking. Last year, he was benched a lot because of missing blocks, and when you got Peyton Manning, you can't have a running back that's missing blocks. That gave Sean Moreno the chance to really thrive in the offense last year. Like I said, I'm going to credit that to being a rookie, not really being completely with it. Second year here, he's going to be the featured guy. We saw what Monty Ball did in college. He was a ridiculous running back in college. So I see a lot of comparisons to a guy maybe a lot like Bell in this year. Kind of similar running backs. We're going to kind of see him do everything. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, which we obviously know Denver's going to throw the ball a lot. I like either one of these guys. I think if you get either one of them, they're probably going to put up similar numbers this year. You kind of like Ball because of the system he's in, but Bell's is an amazing running back as well. Pittsburgh knows how to use him right.
Yeah, I love Le'Veon Bell. This guy was great as soon as he got healthy and back in the lineup last year. Very high on him. I want him on my team this year. If you can get him as your number 2 running back, you are in great position.
Solid.
And make sure to grab a good number 3 while you're at it, because running back's one of those positions where if you can get 4 solid starters, that's going to be the safety net you need, because you can almost guarantee that one of your 3 main guys is going to get injured. It happens to me season after season, and it's a lot of times it comes down to if you have good enough backups to throw in there in the playoffs. Number 11, DeMarco Murray. Do you trust him to stay healthy? I know that's a tough question, Justin. especially with this guy. But he's so good when he's out there.
It's a tough question, but really for all of these guys it is. And these running backs get beat up by far the most. They're running into a pile full of giant men just trying to destroy them. So there's going to be some wear and tear. And the guys that can survive that will be the fantasy studs at the end of the year. DeMarco Murray, he should be featured even more in the Dallas offense this season. I'm not even sure who's play calling over there. They switched that up just as much as North Turner's switching jobs.
I think it's Jerry Jones actually this year.
Jerry Jones, eh?
Nice.
So, but they have Philip Tanner, I believe, behind him. He's a pretty good running back, and I've seen him get a lot of snaps in what I've seen on training camp. So.
Yeah, I've always been impressed by him.
A notable backup, but barring injury, DeMarco Murray is a very solid 2. I would not stretch for him.
Yeah, he would be a great second round, like late second round pick. Yeah. Maybe he even falls into the third round in some of your leagues because people have had DeMarco Murray in the past and been scarred by him because of his injury issues. Some people will try to avoid him. Our number 12 ranked running back is Arian Foster. Now, this is the ultimate boomer bust player. Mm-hmm. If he's healthy and stays on the field, he's going to be an elite running back, despite the fact that it's a different offense this year. He's been really, really good in the past, enough to warrant a high draft pick. Right now, he's already on the shelf. He said that he contemplated retirement in the offseason, so that could be a red flag. But he is back, as far as on the team this year, and he is the number 1 guy. He's injured as of right now, as of time of recording, but we do expect him to be healthy by week 1 of the season. Giovanni Bernard, Kyle, I could imagine at number 13, you got to be really high on him this year.
Yeah, we saw what he did last year in his rookie season. He's definitely got the wow factor. He's a guy that can strike at any moment. It's going to be interesting to see how Cincinnati uses him this year. Is the law firm going to get all the goal line carries again? Because that's what hurt Bernard last year. Bernard had way more rushing yards, more carries, but when it came down to, actually, I believe the law firm had more carries last year than Bernard did, but Bernard obviously put up way more yards, and of course, we saw a lot of his touchdowns get taken away because they weren't using him around the end zone.
Yeah,
that could be your only downside, but I see Bernard really busting out this year. Like I said, the guy's got the ability to go all the way anytime he touches the ball, and if Cincinnati's smart, they got to get the ball in his hands a lot more this year.
Yeah, great receiver as well. I know, Kyle, you were talking about how you liked receiving running backs. He's surely one of them. But we do like a couple other running backs in there with him. Not only the law firm, of course, you got the rookie as well, Jeremy Hill. So those guys are vultures waiting to happen. He's still elite enough to warrant a top draft pick. Number 13 is a good spot for a guy with that much talent. Alfred Morris is in Jay Gruden's system now. Jay Gruden, for as good as he is offensively, he really hasn't made a ton of top-notch running backs. Alfred Morris is a little bit questionable because he's been so good in the zone blocking scheme. So it's a different offense for him. He is still the number 1 guy. Mm-hmm. I think he could have a pretty consistent season for you in an offense that should improve. Reggie Bush comes in at number 15. This is a tough guy to rank because he's so good, but you have to think that they're going to be using Joyke Bell quite a bit this year. I know last year they kind of started to do that, but if for any reason they decide to give the full workload to Reggie Bush and he can handle it, he's proved to be one of the better running backs in the league. Now, Rashad Jennings, this is a guy that I really wanted to ask you guys about.
Yeah.
He's shown in the past some good games. He's shown some bad games, some games where he came out flat. And this is the time where he'll finally get a for sure starting role coming out this season. Would you be happy? I mean, what do you think? A number 2 running back?
Yeah,
possibly?
A good number 2. I was impressed by his emergence with the Oakland Raiders last season. He was kind of, he's the backup in Jacksonville for a while. You're wondering when will he get a chance to start, see what he could do. Mm-hmm. McFadden, unfortunately, couldn't stay healthy, so we saw what Jennings could do. He can carry, the running load for a team. Now that the Giants have him, they'll probably use him even more. David Wilson, who was a big draft pick for them two or 3 years ago.
Yep.
His career is over now. So there's only one other running back that's there, Andre Williams.
Yeah, the Williams character looks
Williams
good though.
Williams is a great draft pick for them as well. So I see Rashad Jennings getting the bulk of the load in New York.
Yeah. Let's move on to number 17, a guy you're pretty familiar with here, K-Mac, C.J. Spiller. For anybody who drafted C.J. Spiller, I know you don't even want to hear his name. There he is. Look away if you drafted him last year. but perhaps he bounces back this year. Kyle, what do you foresee?
Yeah, this is another one of those cases of a team that's really not using their talent that they have in the right way. I think C.J. Spiller should have had a much bigger year last year, but they still like Fred Jackson in Buffalo. But Fred Jackson's kind of been their stable guy that they've had the past couple seasons, and he seems to be getting all the touchdowns, man. I mean, it's hard to have to draft a running back high in the draft for your fantasy league if you know going into it, geez, you might only get 2 or 3 touchdowns this season. That's not going to cut it for fantasy football. Obviously, C.J. Spiller is definitely got the talent to be a top 10 running back in this league. We'll see how they use him. I know they got Bryce Brown as well in the mix now, so that's just another, we're not sure who Buffalo is really going to stick with and be their number 1 running back. It seems like the story of this season is going to be a lot of teams are using running back by committee, so it's going to definitely make it much harder as you start getting later in the draft of getting a running back and being able to start him, comfortably every week.
Yeah, special shout out to Freddie Jackson, real good running back, another guy who, if he just had the full workload, he would be a top 10 caliber guy. C.J. Spiller looks to get a chance here, though, and I think they'll feed it to him quite a bit. We'll see how he does, see if he can finally bounce back after just a dreadful season. Ryan Matthews is an underrated guy. He was pretty good last season.
He was looking real good, but a concern for him, just like a concern for Spiller, is the running back by committee. The Chargers, they picked up Don Brown. They have Woodhead. So there's a lot of weapons that Old Man Rivers is going to be able to utilize in that offense. That being said, solid number 2 running back, Ryan Matthews.
Yeah, and I think more likely number 3 for the best teams out there. If you have him at number 3, you probably have a good stable of running backs. I'm really high on Ray Rice this year. I know I'm kind of on an island in some aspects for that one. I'm just a fan of the Gary Kubiak running backs. He is going to be suspended for 2 games, so it's one of those guys where if you draft him a little bit high, you have to immediately go for another running back or someone to start. He was dreadful last year. It is what it is. They did win the Super Bowl, so he had to play a lot of games the season prior where he made a ton of plays that eventually won them a Super Bowl. And he's just one of those guys who's great in the passing game. Look at his yardage last year. For as bad as he was, he still had productivity in the passing game there. So all it takes is for him to get some more running yards, and he'll be easily one of the better running backs despite missing those first 2 games. Same can kind of be said here for Shane Vereen. Vereen with the New England Patriots had a great yard per carry average, was very impressive in the receiving game. Tom Brady's going to look to have him all season this year and look to make the most out of him, because when they got him back last year, it was kind of on the fly. This year, they're practicing all training camp. It should be all systems go. He did start off last year strong, got injured right away. So we'll see what happens in year 2 of Shane Vereen as basically the starter. We all know Stephen Ridley's going to be in there doing a lot of work, that's for sure.
Just beware of Belichick. If you fumble once, you're screwed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Andre Ellington, Kyle, number 21 for us. Would you take him on your team?
I would definitely take him. He'd be a perfect flex back for you, a number 3 guy. This guy has got so much talent. Hopefully he is fully utilized this year. He's looking to be the number 1 guy. We'll see how that works out here. I think he's got Jonathan Dwyer and Stephen Taylor to compete with. So, and obviously Rashad Mendenhall. But from what I've heard, is Rashad Mendenhall is going to be kind of the goal line guy. It kind of reminds me of a lot how the Bengals are with Bernard and with Jarvis Green Ellis. So kind of similar thing there. But from what I've heard is that Bruce Arians really likes Ellington. They want to use him a lot. They want to show off his skill, especially in the passing game, which Arizona is very pass-heavy offense. So I would take him as a number 3 guy this year.
Yeah, and I forgot Rashard Mendenhall was even in the league anymore. So we'll see if he can be a vulture. That would not help Andre Ellington's stock out. Frank Gore, real low here, 22. Kyle, I know you're pretty high on him. We'll make a video about the 49ers offense here very soon for you guys. I know a lot of you are going to be interested in drafting Frank Gore.
Still going, yeah.
The guy right after Toby Gerhart, I'm very high on him. I know he plays for a pretty bad offense there in Jacksonville, but he's proven every time he gets the chance, he's pretty good. It's like nobody really gives him respect until he actually is in the game getting the ball, where it's like, damn, this guy's a monster. He's running over everybody. Minnesota was not a good team, and he did fine for them, so we'll see how he does on Jacksonville. Lamar Miller, 24. Trent Richardson, 25. Kyle, are you going to have either of those guys on your team this year?
I would definitely take a stab at Lamar Miller. I like what the system that Miami is going with this year. It's going to be something really similar to what we're seeing in Philly under Chip Kelly. Philly's quarterback coach is now the offensive coordinator in Miami. He's already said he wants to use Lamar Miller exactly how they were using McCoy up in Philly. So if that's the case here, Lamar Miller definitely has a skill. I mean, there's no knocking down Lamar Miller and his skill. I felt he wasn't used right last year, which we've all seen Dolphins, some reason, don't know how to use running backs right. We saw Reggie Bush almost end his career there because he was not using afterthought when he went to Miami. They've tried using Daniel Thomas all the time. Nothing ever happens there. I think with a new system, a new idea of getting your running back out in the flat, a guy that's got the athletic ability and the agility as Lamar Miller does, I think we could really see a sleeper type season here for Lamar Miller. And I think you can really get him low in this draft, and he's going to provide good value for you.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Hopefully Lamar Miller breaks out this year. Make sure to grab him, guys. Thank you for joining us for our running back rankings here for the 2014 season. Shout out to Sankey Leg, Bishop Sankey, as well as Joik Bell. Make sure to draft both of those guys. Both of them are going to be very valuable despite their low average draft positions compared to the rest of the running backs. I'm RJ for Justin.
Thanks for joining us.
And Kyle. We will catch you in the next episode of our fantasy football coverage.
Stay trippy.